Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We are grateful to be holding our event on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Ojibwe, the Anishinaabe, and the Mississaugas of New Credit. My name is Andrew Chetty Sukra. Actually, I was going to say, my name is Marissa Sweet, but only in aspiration for all the hard work she's done on behalf of the SCA. So I'll stay with Andrew Chetty Sukra. We are pleased to welcome those of you who have been with us for many years, as well as new members to the Society of Canadian Artists. Thank you to the Arts and Letters Club of Toronto for hosting our winter holiday party. We've been here a few times now over the years. And to the SCA Executive Board, to our patrons, members, and guests. These words are all Marissa's, but she continues in the first person when she says, I am so sorry I could not be with you tonight as I got hit by COVID last Monday, and I'm required to isolate for 5 days. I am, however, thankful to the person here, honorary elected member and Derry Chilton Russell, or SCA Board Secretary, to speak on my behalf. I'm excited to hear our guest speaker, Olex Wlassenko, award-winning artist and curator of the Whitby Station Gallery, and to learn how he balances life wearing 2 hats. I only have one. As a actually, I'm kidding. I have 8 hats. One of them is actually too big for me, so that's life, isn't it? I have to go back to Kensington Market and get refitted for a proper hat. Olex is a curator of the Whitby Station Gallery, and we are delighted to hear him speak and to learn how he balances life wearing several hats as a curator and as a visual artist. To conclude, this is Marissa speaking. She knows she needs to draw closure to my ramblings by making it brief. I encourage you to meet and greet everyone and to try to make a new friend here tonight, for those of you who are new to the Society or to the Arts and Letters Club. This is a place of many bonds and friendships. I've been a member here for 27 years, and I've made lifelong friends here, people of the arts or people who are supporters of the arts. So the tables that you're sitting at have made connections over the years. It's a tradition I would encourage you to continue. Reach across the table, say hi to someone, and Derry is going to take you through some ice-breaking endeavors that will help you to do that. So Marissa encourages you to meet and greet everyone and to make a new friend. I'd like to encourage you to participate in all our future exhibitions. This is a wonderful place to show if the show is being held here, or if it's a paper mill or some other gallery. We have a strong committee in the SCA who puts on these shows, and your work will be well represented. On behalf of the Society of Canadian Artists, thank you for coming, and let's get this party started. That's the table we all aspire to. Marissa Sweet, SCA President.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. So I trip over the rug. First of all, we're going to have a very quick get to know you. In your table, could you discuss amongst yourselves what you have in common? The group that reaches 10 items wins, but you have to read them out loud. Write them down, write them down. You have to find the most things you have in common. I'm also going to pass these around if anybody hasn't got a sticker for what color they're eating.
Yes, yes. Once we have, if anybody is tired of being
My squares aren't helping out. Some of them are Time's up. Oh, time's up. How many did you get?
5.
It is. That was just a little icebreaker to get things started, folks. Okay. Everyone can get settled.
That's good.
Okay. Our middle table won. Congratulations, folks. Okay. Clapping for the winners. We would like to recognize the fall elected members who are here tonight. Please stand up and be recognized. David Mcauley, all the way from Fall in Alberta. Susan Typert from Whitby, Ontario. And Golnaz Khadivi Zand from Thornhill. Congratulations. I encourage everyone to say hello to our new members and welcome them to the association. Presentation of fall elected members. The following new members have met the SCA standards based on 2 factors, the artist's work and their professional development. Both are equally important and both carry significant weight in the juror's assessment. Jurors' assessments are final. Please find the fall elected members. Our 19 submissions, 7 artists were accepted. Our congratulations to Whitney. There were 19 submissions from artists from Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec. A panel of 5 SCA elected member jurors and 7 artists met the criteria and granted elected status. Congratulations. Our first new member is Liane Bedard SCA, Mississauga, Ontario. Liane writes, watercolor. I am interested in exploring the play of sunlight and the design it creates in everyday life. By focusing on the capture of the transient sunshine, particularly in early morning or late afternoon, strong compositions are found. and I am inspired to pay tribute to the fleeting moments we all see, but pass us by so quickly. This is some more of Liane's work. Next. No, she didn't make it. Judith Harvey of Montreal, Quebec. This painting has been part of my life as far back as I can remember. All the colors of the rainbow in pots of paint I discovered as a child could be wonderfully transformed into anything my imagination conjured up. The subject matter has changed over the years, but the thrill of creating something out of a blank canvas never wanes. More than ever, I am grateful for that gift. The activity of painting is where the joy lies. Some more of Judith's work. Next is Golnaz Khadivi Zand SCA from Thornhill, Ontario. In my paintings and artworks, I portray the struggles and concerns that I have faced as an immigrant woman. No matter what country one emigrates from, your beliefs, values, traditions, and culture are like the contents of a suitcase that one carries throughout their life in a new country. This new painting, the frame, uses symbolism that recalls surrealism and is painted in its naturalistic manner. I've used my daughter as the model in order to consider the differences between my life experience and hers. She is half covered and half revealed to express how she is part of two worlds, to portray the limitations of any point of view. I have her holding a frame outside of which a colder, less accurate quality of light is depicted. The draped Persian carpet over her legs references both Iran and symbolizes heaven on earth. But as I am not fully able to feel at home in this new place, the carpet is not fully flat upon the ground. The figure is enclosed by curtains that prevent her from being fully present in her current reality. In this painting, I reflect on myself in both a personal way and in relation to society. My hope for the imagery to resonate with migrants of any background and to reveal the complexity of the experience to those who haven't gone through it. Here's some more of Golnaz's work. I have a presentation here for you. And I forgot. If you don't mind coming with Golnaz. I'm in the right order. Next, David Mcauley SCA. I'm an artist that is passionate about creating art out of upcycled material discarded by the public. My work inspires much needed conversation surrounding waste and finding the beauty in recycling. I achieve this by upcycling cutlery, cooking utensils, and other discarded material. I've always had a passion for fine arts and became a full-time artist in 2018. Some more of David's work. And he brought the duck tonight. It's back there on the table if anybody wants to check it out. Come on up, David. Congratulations. Next is Gordon Pym SCA from Beaconsville, Quebec. My painting over time has evolved from earlier moody, tonalist landscapes, which at times bordered on the semi-abstract, now to a more focused interest in realism, particularly of the sky, and most recently, the sea. There is still a tonalist aesthetic to my work, notably the lack of human involvement, other than a path or two and the isolation of a few key elements, such as grass or trees, in a vast landscape. There's also a focus on the everyday happenings, such as the buildup of clouds, a wave rolling in, or a storm far at sea. Next, we have Josee Tellier SCA, Wolel, Quebec. My work is 3D low relief with glass insertion. I use iridescent stained glass that sparkles and only eyes can see the colors in space. The images don't show the real colors of the windows, water, or street lamp. The camera cannot catch the window's colors, but only the reflection of light nearby. When looking at the final work, compare with the sculpture image. Next, we have Susan Typert. Susan Typert SCA, Whitby, Ontario. Whether working in oils or pastel, my style is painterly. My work has been described as loose realism with a touch of colorist. I want viewers to be captured by the bold use of colors, then pulled into the subtle details within the painting. I am looking forward to continuing my art journey within the SCA, as many of the artists that I admire are members. I am hopeful that this high level of work will continue to push me to new levels in my own work. Susan? Yeah. And that's it. We are going to break for dinner. I have a slideshow of everyone's work. Congratulations to our newly elected members and dinner. So I'm going to put that on while we're eating. And you can, if you happen to look up and see your work, please put your hand up so that other members can know. No, just a quick. Thank you.
We were hoping to get some holiday music, but I think I'm going to defer that to Sheila's table to sing for us. Sing some holiday songs. The first would be my request, Silent Night. I know you guys can't keep quiet for any length of time, so. Staff here at the Arts and Letters Club. Bring the chef out to take a bow. We've all enjoyed that tremendously. Thank you. Chef and his staff. And Neil closes the curtains. Neil, how dare you? Few words about our guest tonight, our guest speaker tonight, if you don't mind. Olex Wlassenko has based his studio practice, as we mentioned earlier on, in Oshawa, Ontario, after earning a Master of Fine Arts degree at the University of Western Ontario in the year 2000. Prior to this, he graduated with distinction from the Ontario College of Art, the OCA. That's what it was when I was there part-time as well too.
Before Khadivi.
Yeah, yes. In 1994. And he went on to complete a degree in fine arts at the University of Guelph. In his final year at OCA, Wlassenko was awarded the Eric Friedfeld Award. That is an incredible award. I know a little bit of it, but you can, when you come up here, you can talk a bit more about that. Perfect. In 2001 and in 2011, he won top prize at the National Jury Drawing Exhibition organized at the John B. Aird Gallery. If you've not taken part with that, and if it's still going, I encourage you to do it. It is a top-class exhibition and competition, and for you to have been in there, John, congratulations. The artist was awarded Canada Council for the Arts Creation and Production Grants in 2001, 2004, 2005, 2007, 2008, 2010. I'm not making light of your congratulations on that. Also regularly receiving grants from the Ontario Arts Council since 2001. In 2002 and 2004, 2005 and 2006, the artist won Best Drawing Award at the Toronto Outdoor Art Exhibition. That is indeed, along with the other recognitions, that is indeed a high touch. Those judges are very tough to please. I know that of which I speak. I've been rejected from those shows many times. Not only do you get in, you win awards. Damn you. Wlassenko has exhibited extensively in Toronto, in London, Ontario, nationally in Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, and Dawson City in Yukon, and internationally in Florence, Italy, and Kiev, Ukraine. Kiev, is it Kiev? Kiev, thank you, Kiev, thank you. Which is a tough thing for a Guyanese to say, to break out in broken English here. Oh, by the way, did you know that I'm bilingual? I'm fluently bilingual, English and broken English. After completing his graduate studies, Wlassenko worked as assistant curator at the Robert McLaughlin Gallery, the RMG in Oshawa, Ontario. There he organized over 20 photography exhibitions featuring vintage prints that document the historical development of his hometown of Oshawa. Wlassenko has curated over 80 exhibitions, heavens, man, including Broken Promises, Soviet Photography at the Age of Stalin at the McLaren Art Center, Vera Jessic, Cristo, Brendan Fernandez, wow, Dada Africa, Tony Latour, the Femme Project, Merrill McCaster, In Between Worlds, and most recently, Marie-Josee, Microcosms, Macrocosms. Olex has been the curator at Whitby's Station Gallery since February of 2008. Let us welcome Olex Wlassenko.
Thank you, Andrew. That's great. Thanks so much for those kind words, Andrew. I feel like my life has just passed before me. My very eyes.
You you're doing.
Yeah. I'm really excited. Danica, my fiance, will attest to that. The last few nights have been sleepless for me because I'm just so to present this evening, and I'll be speaking about the two hats, as we were speaking about hats, and I've worn two in the past few decades, and the balance that's achieved when you're working with creative individuals like other artists and cultural producers, and then being one yourself, and how there's sort of pardon the hackneyed sort of expression of there's sort of like a yin to a yang. One is very, let's say, very public and open and collaborative, and another one is very much I guess you could say cloistered. as we all know, that over the course of the pandemic, of course, many of us as working artists actually enjoyed working in our cloistered studios and being able to produce quite a bit. So I'm going to maybe show some of the highlights over the years that I really enjoy speaking about. And this is an exhibition that I had the great pleasure of working with. The artist is Noni Kaur, K-A-U-R, if you're taking notes. And this was a project that she brought to Station Gallery in early 2020. And it was right when, right before nobody suspected that the entire world was going to close down. And it did, right when the show was up. I still remember the day. That was a Friday, the 13th March 2020. We all got sent home, and we left behind this lovely installation.
I'm just going to get somebody in tech to come and look at the Zoom. It's not put the broadcasting.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to repeat everything you said?
Let me come back on. We're just waiting for tech people to come and look at the Zoom connection. Maybe then we can out there. So
should we get some waiting music maybe here?
Yes. Larry, I'm just wondering. I don't know if that's what happened.
I still have the Zoom up. The Zoom is still up.
So, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to start again? That we should be okay.
All right.
You let me know if it doesn't.
Okay, we're back online. Welcome everyone on Zoom. My name is Olex, and I'm really excited to present. I'll pick it up where we left off here. You didn't miss much on Zoom. This is an image of Noni Kaur's project. She had brought this wonderful installation, and I think a number of you in the room may have seen this when it was up at the gallery in early 2020. Unbeknownst to us, it was, let's see, maybe I can just, from current slide. Will that still work? There we go. And this is a tradition in India known as Rangoli. But Rangoli is usually made from colored stones or colored sand, as you well know. And Noni took an olfactory twist to this, and in fact, kind of a culinary twist. And she dyed desiccated coconut shavings and created this beautiful portrait of a woman. It's an abstracted portrait, as you can see, but absolutely astounding. And I've never really been in an installation or experienced art with such an olfactory sensation. You'd walk into the gallery and all of a sudden it felt like you were on vacation, because you know, it was like the coconut butter, that really beautiful texture that you get, and you could just taste it, you know. It was just so beautiful. Dana, you saw it, remember? It was just so gorgeous. And here we have the Durham College students visiting it and taking it all in. It was so amazing. And the title of her exhibition was Microbial Worlds. Just amazing. And it kind of gives me chills just thinking about it, how it was microbial and how the pandemic was also on that scale. And microbial feast, that's what it was called. And here's another shot of it. Only this time we had the CBC come out to Station Gallery. This is the very first time that Station Gallery had national coverage. And we had I think her name is Amanda Parrish there she is, kneeling next to Noni, who's just getting mic'd up, and they're right about to do the interview. And this aired right like a week before everything shut down. So nobody really got, like, the word got out coast to coast to coast, but nobody was able to see the show. So that was the interesting thing that happened to this.
I am so excited to be here. We are safe and now in the beach. My first time being it. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's incredible. It's converted to states and I've heard. And it's a very gray, overcast day. Which is so cool. And so my friends, perfect day.
Maybe we'll pause. We're having some technical difficulties. Does anyone know how to run Zoom? Just so they can see the images as well. Great.
Okay, there we go. We have a shared screen, everyone. We're good to go now. I think we're good to go now. Okay. Marissa, can anyone see that on Zoom? My screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Nami. I am so excited to be here. We're here at Station Gallery in the beach. My first time being
I'll leave it on that one. You're welcome.
We have to get you back to get it started.
I'm right by the bar.
Okay. Drinking heavily by the bar. That's what I mean. Well done.
You're still here? Okay, good.
I was thinking if we were able to build in that little glitch so you could click on that. Fascinating.
It's almost like it was planned. Yes. Okay, I trust that everyone on Zoom can see the image. Okay, so we were talking about Noni Core, and this was the first time, as I had mentioned, we had national coast-to-coast coverage of the Station Gallery. So they would have heard of us way up in the Arctic Circle. And this was the clip that was played.
Nami. I am so excited to be here. We're here at Station Gallery in the beach. My first time being here. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's incredible. It's converted to station I've heard. And it's a very gray, overcast day. I feel like you're just so colorful and so vibrant. It's a perfect day.
She's so cute. She's just such a lovely person, and her artwork is really indicative of what kind of a person she is. She's just what would like radiant. I think that's she was just a lovely artist to work with. It was such a process also of creating the desiccated coconut shavings, because they would have to be gel dyed, and it was like a really long process. It would take months for her to create all of these individual colors. And I heard earlier she's on the faculty of at Humber. Yes, that's right. So she's also a really gifted educator as well. Noni Core, someone to look up. Now, this was an exhibition of Bonnie Devine's, and I know, I believe Bonnie has connections to the Ontario College of Art and Design. And I had a chance to work with Bonnie back, well, it would have been shortly after there was another, it was the pandemic, but in this case, it was the H1N1 pandemic, what was called swine flu, I think, back in the day. And this is directly commenting on that. This is a piece called Manitoba. In Manitoba, there are 63 First Nations, and each one of them are represented in this installation. You can see these are body bags that that Bonnie had hung from the lighting grid of the Copa Gallery at Station Gallery. Now, this is where being a curator, sometimes you're planning to do things a certain way, and you imagine in your mind's eye that things will turn out really great and everything will fall into place. Well, this was an exhibition that could have gone horribly wrong. And Dana, you were there, remember, back in 2009, volunteering to put this exhibition up. We started hanging the body bags, thinking, well, they're extremely light. They're less than a pound each. But we started hanging them, and all of a sudden, the entire lighting grid went haywire, and it just went. And we thought the whole thing was going to fall down and electrocute all of us, and there would be the body bags. You know, we had to rethink. We had to rethink this installation very quickly. And we figured out that you have to hang it like a pendulum, like you have to hang one row on one side and another row on the other side. So it doesn't, you're not going in sequential order, but rather you have an equilibrium on that lighting grid, and it ended up working just absolutely fantastically. It was as though all 63 body bags had fit and there was extras that went all around the perimeter of the room, and it absolutely was stunning. So that was in the Copa Gallery, which, if you've been to Station Gallery, you'll know that there are two parts. There's the older part, which is the station building built in 1903, and then there's the newer part, which is probably about 16 or 17 years old now. So this was in the new part. And then in the old part, you can see with the lovely wainscoting, Bonnie had brought in her canoe. She had created a canoe based on the designs of William Commando, an elder in the First Nations. And she had built this canoe based on William Commando's schematics. And it was made from her notes, her graduate notes from doing her MFA. I think that that's a really resourceful way of recycling. I think you'll agree. And a full-scale canoe was hung in the heritage building of the gallery. And people really enjoyed reading her ideas, her concepts, all the things that she was thinking about when she was doing her master's. We had heard the name Brendan Fernandez earlier mentioned, but this was an absolute treat to work with. This was, Brendan is an art star. To put it into perspective, he had a solo exhibition at the gallery, and when his show wrapped up, he was on his way to the Museum of Modern Art in New York. But you saw him first at Station Gallery, and this was a really amazing way of transforming that heritage space in an unpredictable way. I think it's one of my favorite exhibitions. What he did, we had the perimeter of the walls painted this forest green, and then Brendan had created these decals, these vinyl decals of spears. See, he has a very interesting and very hybrid background. He was born in Africa, but he is of Goan descent. And Go, of course, you'll know, is the west coast of the Indian subcontinent, very popular with tourists. And he had immigrated to Canada at a young age. And so his work speaks about that liminal space of being in between worlds. And he brought in these deer decoys and fitted them with Maasai masks, kind of like those Halloween masks. And he had those made, and it was an absolutely amazing installation. Really enjoyed working. He's a real sweetheart too. This was an exhibition of Jane Eccles, and some of you will know of Jane Eccles's work. She's Bowmanville based, and we were preparing to do her exhibition, and and it was really uncanny because, of course, the exhibition planning process usually it takes 2 to 3 years ramping up. And we had no idea back when we started talking about her exhibition that her show would coincide exactly with the 100th anniversary of International Women's Day. I didn't know that in 1909 it was the very first International Women's Day in Germany that was celebrated. And Jane's work very much speaks to the experience of being a woman. And this was called the Dresses Project. This is the very first time that a living Canadian artist was on the front page of a major national newspaper, in this case, the Toronto Star. And it was absolutely amazing. It was just a few weeks right before her exhibition opened. We had huge crowds coming out to her exhibition. It was a real standout. And this gives you a sense of how elegant and how beautiful her Dresses Project was. What she did, what the focus of this body of work is, she had borrowed garments and dresses of women that she knew and in some cases did not know, of all walks and classes of life, and she had hung them in her studio and then proceeded to produce these very beautiful, highly, I would say, like almost photo representational paintings of these lovely garments. And you can see that one, it's kind of a purple dress that's in the corner. That was a dress that she had borrowed from Margaret Atwood. So that was kind of the star that was in the show. But a really beautiful installation. I really enjoyed how it was installed and how there was an interface between the imagery and the actual dresses. Really beautiful and elegant. This is a self-portrait of Jane when she was expecting her firstborn. And then how she activated that patron's breezeway is really beautiful, having those transparencies that kind of march through and bridge the old and the new styles of architecture of the gallery. I'd never seen that space activated so well. And look at the crowds. It was just, when she did her artist talk, there was just huge response to it. This is in the back gallery, what we lovingly refer to as Gallery C. This was an exhibition of a Barbados-born artist by the name of Jocelyn Gardner. And she had created these beautiful images of these very intricate hair weaves. And in the middle of the Heritage Gallery, she had this kind of like this separate room that she had created by using curtains, these really refulgent red curtains. And in the middle was a table, and there was like a basin, a water basin. There was a projection, and that water would slowly turn into blood red. And it was really challenging trying to figure out how we were going to do this from an installation standpoint, because there was a lot of technical difficulties that could happen. So this is it being projected. So just imagine like a projector that we see in the room right now, but the way it's projecting right now is on a vertical surface, but we needed it on a horizontal surface. So what we ended up doing, we ended up mounting this projector on the ceiling. And then you can see there is a mirror that is mirroring the image and casting it downward. And that ended up working really well. You can see also a speaker that was hung on the ceiling just to get that sound that accompanied that video installation. This is in more recent days. We got a Matterport documentation of this exhibition. This was in April. This was an exhibition titled Hold Fast, 8 Canadian Ukrainian Artists. And this was in response, of course, to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and celebrating the Ukrainian culture, particularly in the Canadian context, and showing the resilience of of the Canadian-Ukrainian experience. And this was a large photographic work that was, well, maybe somebody will recognize who the photographer is. I've got a better shot. Yeah, there it is. It is. This is Edward Bertinsky. Absolutely.
He's presented here. Well,
That would be amazing. I've always wanted to meet Ed Bertinsky. And in fact, it was about back in 2009, we were out in St. John's, I always get them mixed up, in Newfoundland. And there was a Canadian Museums Association conference that we were going to. And Ed Bertinsky was premiering his oil series at the Rooms. If you've been to Newfoundland and St. John's, you'll know that that's the provincial art gallery in town. And he was previewing this series. I was so Twitter-pated. And all my colleagues are going, just go up to him. Oh, let's go and say hello to Ed Bertinsky. I was like, oh no, I can't. I think I'd faint or something like that because he's so, he's such a big name, right?
hey, you might say it too.
I thought I could say something like, looks like we're probably the only two Ukrainians on the rock right now. But so he, everything was happening so fast, of course, back earlier this year with the invasion in Ukraine. And I reached out to Ed Bertinsky, and when you work with Ed Bertinsky, you work with his people, or at least I did. And he employs, you know, a staff of 4 people, and you don't directly deal with the photographer. That was the first case in my experience of working with somebody's representatives, and that was. But I was really grateful that Edward had agreed to participate in the exhibition Hold Fast, and he had given us about 7 choices. We could choose whichever one we would want representing his body of work in the context. And this is the one that we chose. This is called Sokar oil fields, and that the Sokar oil fields are in Azerbaijan, just outside of Baku. And I just thought that this, like geographically, it was the closest to Ukraine, and hence the most appropriate image to have. And just amazing detail. If you were like, this thing is huge. This is like probably the scale that it's currently right now projected. But there's so much detail in there. And if you look in certain areas, I'm hoping, yeah. So if you sort of look in, there's like people that are in there. It's absolutely stunning. And let's see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so look, there's like a worker there wearing white. I mean, it's just, when you look at, it's just like a pixel, but it's actually a person. And then if you look sort of to the far right where the oil derricks are, there's 2 other people that are working there. You can see wearing their hard hats. Absolutely astounding. It's almost like Find Waldo or something. An amazing piece. And in the context of the show, of course, there was 8 Canadian artists of Ukrainian descent. And of course, one of the superstars was Natalka Husar, a Toronto-based artist. I'm proud to say my mentor and now my friend. And she had graciously agreed to loan this work. Well, she wasn't really loaning it. In fact, it was being loaned from a private collector. She was just the steward of this piece. She was taking care of this immense work called Odessa's Tears. And if we go back into the Matterport, we could see as surveying, there's Natalia Leluc's Batman series. And then on that black wall, this wonderful, huge work, an oil on linen piece titled Odessa's Tears from the collection of Colin Anderson. And there was also not 1, but 2 works by Natalka Husar. And I kind of put them together with, I paired it with another Canadian Ukrainian artist that you'll all know, William Kyrillik. I sort of saw them as the king and queen of Canadian Ukrainian art. And that piece that was hung next, the black and white image is by William Kyrillik, and that's from our permanent collection at the Station Gallery, hung next to Natalka Husar's Inspiration, which was created a decade earlier. And this is an image of inspiration. I just thought that within the context of how Natalka was taking things really, she was taking things to heart, as many of us were earlier on in this year. Just the horrendous things that were happening in Ukraine. And she's always referred to her heritage. She never shies away from it. She wears it on her sleeve, right? And this was a piece, Inspiration. I said, Natalka, don't despair. Things will, you'll get new inspiration from this, and you will create a new body of work. And I hope that will come. And that's why this piece is inspiration. You can see she's looking into a box, but there's nothing in the box. But maybe that's the inspiration that will come out, almost like a genie out of a bottle. And how beautiful around the periphery of that image is something that also has sentimental value for her. It was from a board or from a woodwork that was left on her late mother's balcony, and she's incorporated that into this piece. So going back to Odessa's Tears, this is what was written in an essay by Shirley Medill back in 2002. A painting such as Odessa's Tears, for example, not only indexed the artist's dispirited responses to her journey to Ukraine, but also presented an ambitious and fully realized critique of the effects of Ukraine's staggering political and cultural change upon individuals. This seminal work encapsulates Husar's characteristic gatherings of painted foodstuffs and ethnic kitsch, elements that function as conduits and surrogates for historic change and symbolize the breakdown of Soviet rule at the dawn of a new and difficult era. And I just thought, wow, that seminal work really spoke so much about what was happening many decades after she had painted this work, which was included in the Black Sea Blue series that she did. And I think I've got a clip of Husar speaking about Odessa's Tears.
The thinking is about imagining the worst that can happen, like the baby falling down the stairs. And actually, a quote from that film, was the painting. But living with that fear of the imminent disaster is part of a Ukrainian consciousness. And sadly, tragically, come true.
It was interesting to also, when you looked at this, every time you revisited this painting, you would see something new. And I think that that's the astounding power of Husar's work. Like for instance, that there's like almost like a kerchief. You see that red moment on the left of the composition. That's a little bit lower in the overall composition, but there's like a woman that's like has her head down in her. And there's like vishniak, which is like this alcoholic drink. And then you get these sort of Soviet kitsch toys that are they're just a beautiful fabric study, absolutely masterfully done. And of course, Husar had invoked the Potemkin stairs, and you can see that there's like a pram that's going down these stairs, and and just that. The horrificness of that, and that of course is a quote from Sergei Eisenstein's film. It was a black and white film, and silent, from 1925. Hard to believe that that's going to be almost celebrating 100 years since it was made. But there's that famous scene of the Potemkin stairs in that film. And it was interesting researching the Potemkin stairs because they were built over a 4-year period between 1837 and 1841. And it's really amazing that it relies on sort of optical illusion, because the top stairs are like the top steps are 40 feet in length, and then the bottom ones are 70 feet. So they have an illusion of having great grandeur. And the other thing is there's 191 steps altogether.
Right.
And there's 10 landings. And it's interesting because if you look at the bottom, all you can see is the steps. But if you look at the top, all you can see is the landings.
Yeah.
You've been there, you live there, Svetlana, right? I so want to go there and witness it for myself one day, and not vicariously through research. Yeah, yeah. Does anyone have any questions thus far? Yes. So there was an interest in how it came to be in the show, was that it was in the possession of Natalka Husar. I was doing a studio visit with Natalka in March earlier this year, and she says, "Olex, do you want to get kind of freaked out, right?" And I said, "Well, okay, depends." Sure. She had a bed sheet up on the wall, and she took down the bed sheet, and lo and behold, there was Odessa stairs. I said, "Natalka, I thought that this was in a private collection." Well, she says it is, and it's in Colin's collection, but I'm taking care of it. And contractually, even like there was like a signed contract that she would not add to it or resell it or anything like that. So that is how it ended up, because this is actually a pair. This is a pairing. They're considered almost like a diptych. The other partner piece is in the National Gallery of Canada, and this is considered its partner piece, and that's why it's a very, very important painting. And wow, it was really amazing having it hung on the black wall. Really was absolutely scintillating to look at. I did, I know, because I had seen this as a, like I was, like in my 20s or something, and here I am revisiting it later in life. I'd seen it in the context of the exhibition, and here it is. I'm now curating it into another exhibition. It was just, it felt like the fearful symmetry in the universe. Now we get into some of my pieces. So this is a very large charcoal drawing. I have to say, before I go on, I work in with my index finger, and I manually rub the charcoal powder into the paper with my index finger. So I like to joke that it's true digital art. And I work a lot with cinema. I'm just really love the world of, I wish I could say that I'm a cinephile. I think I am, but it's just a world of cinema out there, like the millions of films that we'll never be able to see because there's just not enough time in our lifetimes. So that's a good question. I'm guessing that it's larger than it appears on here. So it's probably twice the size. So oh geez, it's like 3 feet high. It's not quite 20 feet, but it's probably like, I would guess 12 feet, 12, 13 feet. And it is a scene from a film. It's a directorial debut of, oh goodness, Bertolucci. And it's called La Comare Secca, which I guess loosely translates from the Italian as Grim Reaper. And it follows the stories of, it's sort of like episodic, and it follows the stories of 7 murder suspects. And this is one of the murder suspects, and it recounts what he was doing on the day of the murder. And that, of course, is Teodoro, who is the Italian soldier who's on leave and spending the time wandering through Rome. And of course, in Rome, the major tourist attraction is the Colosseum. And that is what the title of this is Colosseum. But of course, Teodoro appears not once, but actually three times in this composition as he walks seated there, speaking with a father and a son. He gets up and he walks past this gentleman that's in the middle of the composition, and then he catches up with a group, an English language tour group of the Colosseum. So that's been sort of the latest thing that I've been doing, is inserting characters from films where they appear in the films through time and space. Here, all of a sudden, they appear in one single visual sweep. So this is basically like it's a scan of a pan, as it's known in film. And that gives you a little closer sense of the personages that are in this piece. This is another image that is playing with film. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, Teodoro. This is, I found out, this is an amazing thing. You draw things and then you start researching them, and you find out just amazing details. Teodoro was played by an actor, Alan Miget. He's a Jersey boy, but he ended up in his 20s going to work with Italian directors in Europe. And it turned out that he was very much involved with Andy Warhol and appeared in a number of Andy Warhol films. So, and you could actually watch him in Andy Warhol films. I recently looked him up on Wikipedia, and he recently passed, I think he passed away last summer. And I so wanted to reach out to him and say, Alan, I did a picture of you when you were younger, and send him this. He was living in upstate New York in Woodstock, but such is life, and we can't live without those regrets. You know, maybe he's looking down right now and saying, "Thanks for making my image." Another work. This is, you know, a couple. You can see she's in the penumbra of the doorway, standing, a dweller at the threshold. And he seems to be entering in, and then in another scene, but in this case it's reversed, and she's already come through the threshold, and he's standing, still continues standing in the threshold. This is a work that's called Following Metropolis, and it refers to Fritz Lang's Metropolis. How many of you have seen it? It's a classic from 1927, I believe, also silent. Sorry? It's a classic. It's a classic out there, and it takes place in the future. It imagines a sort of a Tower of Babel where there's very little communication between individuals. And this is a film that has just been screened, and you can see the projector and the glow of that light. And slowly the camera pans over to that woman who's taking a drag on that smoke. I'm not endorsing smoking, by the way, but through my drawing. This was, yeah, and she is well over life size, so it's a very, very large piece. This is another large piece, and this is from a film, an Italian film called Mama Roma. And so you can see the woman, a young woman, and she's pointing to the right-hand side of the composition, as though she's gesturing. She says, "I live over there." And this is on the outskirts of Rome. I'm sure it's all built up now, but in researching this area, it turned out that it's the aqueduct part of Rome, and it's still there. And it's a national reserve, and so that's what that odd thing is in the middle of that composition. And so centrally in the middle of it is this monolith, this monolithic thing. And that is the aqueducts that have been eroded over time. I'm sure they must have eroded well more since this film was originally put out in 1962, if I'm not mistaken. So that woman walks behind that pillar, and she reappears in the shade. But all those constructions in the background, all those multi-story apartments, they would have been a part of that post-war rebuilding, the economic miracle that happened in Italy at the time. And you can see on the far right is kind of a dome. And I was curious, what is that dome? And it turns out that this is a newly built basilica called Basilica di San Giovanni Bosco. And there's some pictures of it there. So you can really get a sense of the locus, the exact place where this is taking place. And in fact, we could probably fly over to Rome, wouldn't that be a dream, and actually go to see where that pillar, that eroded pillar, still stands to this day. This is a series that I did back in the day. It was called As We Slept. And this was working with the collection at the McLaren Art Center in Barrie. They had received a massive archive collection of Soviet photography by an anonymous donor. In fact, so large that it was over 23,000 photographs taken somewhere between the period 1932 to 1953, or actually 57. And I had the opportunity to go through all of the black and white photographs. And I was looking I was wearing both hats when I was looking through this archive. I was looking through a curatorial eye to pick photographs which would be on display, but also photographs which would inspire drawings. And in fact, that's what this is. It's a large charcoal drawing. Those two figures appear to be, they're actually larger than life. And there it is, installed in situ at the McLaren Art Center. And they were the propaganda photos. The drawings were the propaganda images. But then there was other subtler elements in the context of this installation. The walls ended up looking like they were bruised. But then you looked closer, and there were wall drawings specifically done on the walls. And the walls showed whitewashed elements of what the reality was. So the drawings, those very large, grandiose images, were what the state wanted us to believe, that the Soviet Union was the workers' paradise, everything was great, everyone was well fed. Look at how much we have electricity, we have lights, we have pianos. You can see Lenin, a portrait of Lenin standing there, but there was really a different reality in this context. And this was at the time when the Holodomor was happening in Ukraine, the Soviet, famine genocide that was raging in the Ukrainian countryside between 1932 and 1933. And that's what the reality was being depicted on the large wall drawings. So you can see there's this very faded image, and it's of the requisitions that the state would come and take away, like livestock and farmers' belongings and their grain, that led up to the actual starvation that happened, that was raging across the country in 1932-33. Those were done directly on the wall, and I had worked at the time. It was the curator was Sarah Beveridge, a good friend of mine, and she would work late, and I was able to work at the McLaren for, after hours, and I was able to create these. I think in total, it was something like 4 days of drawing and getting these images onto the walls. And then I had to put spray fixative on them and then whitewash them with the gallery white. So they would be very, very hidden in plain sight, but certainly they were there. And they're still a part of the architecture as we speak, they're still there. Another image of Soviet school children. And they all look well fed, and they're pioneers, and they're having a grand old time in the socialist paradise that's been created for them. But then if you look to the bottom right, there's an orphan who's been left to fend for himself. And just a solitary image in contrast with this large group shot. This exhibition ended up traveling to Winnipeg, to the Oseradok, that's the Ukrainian Cultural Center there. And I suddenly had a challenge. I had to think of how to get the wall drawings onto the Oseradok walls, because I didn't have the 4 days or 5 days to actually do the drawings. So what I did was I mean, it was easy to roll up these large drawings and put them into my car and then drive them out there. But how was I going to, I had very little time to install the show and to produce the counterparts to the large drawings. So what I did was I drew them in advance in my studio on drywall, and then I peeled off the top layer of the drywall, and I was able to use pH balanced glue and affix them onto the walls, and then put drywall compound around it. So and then sand it down so it looked like it was seamlessly a part of the exhibition. But yeah, very emotional moment. And these are some of the images that I had a chance to see. They're really creepy. I mean, this was a parallel universe that was so unlike anything that we in the West had seen. And like this poor bunny rabbit on a cutting board with the pioneers looking up at this Frankenstein-like figure. But then some of them were really beautiful, and they harken back to a more innocent time of the avant-garde experiences in photography. One can think of Alexander Rodchenko, let's say, and his compositions. And this is the May Day parade on Red Square in 1939. This was wild. There was an entire binder that was called the Durov Menagerie, and it had these wild pictures of these anthropomorphized animals. And here's Max the monkey, and I'd like to believe that Max is reading Marx, and he just got this cute little hoodie that he's wearing there, and he just looks like he has a real intelligence. And then here's Vaska the cat, who's going pussyfooting over these what states it states that they're mice, but I think that they're something different. But look, so that's the recto side, the front side, and on the back it would have a little description. Look at it. It says the cat Vaska has been trained to walk over these mice without harming them. It is a part of the Durov training in friendship among animals, particularly animals who are traditionally hostile.
The same of the animals in the circus.
That's right, and it was still in Tsarist times that the Durov circus had started, right? And just amazing, and seeing all of the indicia and all the stamps and the markings and the passages that these photographs had taken, because these photographs were used in Western media sources like the New York Times, let's say, or the Toronto Star for that matter, or the Globe and Mail back in the day. So there's Vaska the cat. Friendship amongst animals. Druzhba narodov, right? And this is the exhibition that came out of it, Broken Promises, a Soviet photography in the age of Stalin. And it was really interesting sifting through those over 23,000 photographs. I had to do it in sort of bite-sized pieces and take a number of trips to Barry to the McLaren Center to go through these. And in the end, there were 80 photographs that were inaugurated and shown to the public. This was the inaugural exhibition of the soft photo at the McLaren, and you can see the walls were painted this blood red. The exact shade of what the Soviet flag was, we Pantone matched it exactly to during the age of Stalin, and it was very graphically magnificent to walk in and see these beautifully presented images. There was and there were some superstar images too. There was this particular image. It's sort of the equivalent to the American raising of the American flag at Iwo Jima. But this was the raising of the Soviet flag over the Reichstag, which ended up becoming a cultural icon in the Eastern Bloc. And this gives you a sense of how the exhibition was presented. We had the actual photograph, in this case, the raising of the Reichstag, and then there was a scan, a color scan of the recto side, the back side, and all of the fascinating details, the indicia, the marks, the descriptions, and in some cases the incorrect attribution. This is attributed to Grebnev, although the photograph was taken by a photographer by the name of Khalday. And really fascinating story. This was an image which had been heavily airbrushed in those. This is, of course, before the days of Photoshop. And this was considered by the Soviet state to be a politically incorrect image, because it showed that the soldier who's helping up the flag bearer has 2 watches. So what does that indicate? Looting. It's something that they're good at, right? So this would be sending the wrong message if you're wearing 2 wristwatches. They're always about the chassis. Why? You know, at any rate, it's like, so it was like about the watches. So here he is, the soldiers wearing 2 watches. That was a no-no. You had to airbrush that out and create more drama, make it more Wagnerian, and have more smoke in the background. So that's how heavily altered this image has carried through the decades, and it's still used in Russian propaganda now. This takes me to Florence, Italy. My last year of OCA before it got a D was spent in Florence, Italy, studying in what was known as the Florence Off-Campus Study Program. The OCA studios were always in San Marco, but this was the very first year that we were on Terzo Piano, the 3rd floor, right on the corner there, of the corner of Via Fiume e Via Nazionale, River Street and National Street. And there was an abandoned movie theater known as the Apollo. And we figured out a way of climbing up through the roof and going into this abandoned cinema house. And we were absolutely ecstatic that we found out. And this is what we witnessed. And this has been completely shut off from the world for a decade. And like, this was a really important place. So when rock concerts came through, they would play at the Apollo, like Kraftwerk, for instance, played here back in the early 80s. And we would go through there, and it was like a palace that had been left just as it was after it had been shut down in the earlier part of the 80s. So here it is. This was shortly after it was built. It wasn't always known as the Apollo, it was known as the Rex. And it was built during the fascist regime of Mussolini. But it still stands to this day. So there's the Santa Maria Novella, the main train station. And as you go down Via Nazionale, don't you just love Google Earth? It's just great. Via Fiume e Via Nazionale. And there, if we just see this doorway right there, that is where our studio, so we had to go up to the 3rd floor. And that was one of the very few buildings that actually had a lift. We needed a lift because one of the students was wheelchair bound. And there it is, the Apollo Theater, still standing to this day. I'm really glad that they didn't knock it down. and it's not still standing derelict. I think it's used now as the Mercurial Hotel. So if you go downtown. At any rate, that inspired an entire series of works that were found and left and abandoned in the Apollo Theater. And they were on these large rolls, 35mm rolls, and they were commedia dell'arte sort of films, pink comedies as they were known back in those days. These really light comedies with a little slight moral message. And I found this one, and it was called Il Cornuto Magnifico, the Magnificent Cuckold, with Claudia Cardinale. Che bella, bellissima. And some of the images were Ugo Tognazzi turning over in his bed. And just these amazing images that were just abandoned. And all of a sudden there was a vinaigrosis that was setting in. These things were falling apart. So I would go through them. I had a bicycle, and I would put these large rolls on. I would take off my bike wheels, and I would kind of go through them because I didn't have the editing equipment. Then I sort of did we had to do what we were students. We had to make ends meet somehow, and that's how I was able to isolate these discrete images that came out. And this one's really beautiful and touching. Really enjoyed this one. And this image called The Waiting, which shows a dozen individuals in a waiting room waiting to be interviewed. And just also the numerical significance of the dozen. You think of a jury, a dozen members of a jury, and there they are. Sorry? Disciples, yeah.
12 months
Called,
of the year.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Called Merry Men. Yeah. And yeah, they're all in line to be interviewed for just one job, and only one of them will have that job. This is from a movie called Il Posto, not Il Postino, not to be confused.
Color films as well. This is interesting. Coming up right after this scene is an image which I drew on a very large scale. See, this is the slow pan that we have happening that I drew. Another interesting detail here. Lines, they look like scratches, little marks. It makes this particular one here looks like a bit of dust or something. But in fact, that's exactly what they are. Olex has included these flaws in this picture that would have appeared on the original film. Coming up after the break, Olex at the Golnaz Gallery.
That was from a short news bit that featured this work. This is titled Hrenke, and it's named after a very small village where Ukraine's most prominent classical composer was born. You know who I'm talking about, Mcauley Wlassenko. And this was a very large crowd who had gathered for the unveiling of the monument, which was that was shown in the context of that Soviet documentary. Now, my father was an avid collector of films from Soviet Ukraine, but he would always edit out the Soviet propaganda, and then he would splice them back. So we didn't get the full story. But I became that was one of the very first archives that I started to mine and really be inspired by. And this was one of them. This was produced in the context for an exhibition that I had in Kyiv. And I'm kind of a procrastinator, you could say, and I thought, oh, the show isn't happening until the fall, so I'll work on it slowly over the summer and I'll accomplish what I want to get done. Well, it ended up being a mad race to get this done just in time, because I had to take it on the airplane as carry-on luggage, as a big roll. And this is really huge. This is 5 feet by 5 feet tall. So you can probably guess it was probably 12 or 13 feet in length. And this has 257 individuals that are depicted, all gathered for the monument unveiling in Hrinki in Poltava region. And it makes me wonder, where are they now? Are they still around? This took place in 1957, so probably many of them aren't around. Well, maybe the younger ones are in the foreground. You can see the youngsters there. Does anyone have any questions so far? If not, they will. Yes. Yes. So it was large, but it's on paper. So the good thing is that you can roll paper, and I put it into a sonotube. And that was the best way of doing it. I didn't want it to get crushed in being amongst other luggage in the belly of the airplane. Yeah. Yes. I had to burn the candle at both ends. The exhibition was opening. I'm recalling it was in mid-September, and I was just sitting on it until the beginning of September, and then so I had to work really long nights getting this in perspective. And it was an interesting in that interview. Remember when Greg Grist, he was pointing out things. Olex has included all of the dust and the scratches that were inherent in the film. And this film, you saw that it was very slowly panned across. This is one of my favorite pieces. I really enjoyed working on it. And it's not on plain white paper. I actually bought a Wagner power sprayer and I dyed it. So it had this old look to it. It looked like it had been, like old newspaper almost. I can, yeah. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so here it is in the way you see it unfurl as a slow pan. I just sort of work holistically on the entire composition. Not, I wouldn't work like from one side to the next. You can see there's a little bit of some people think that this is like a view from a trail or a rail car, on the left hand side. But that's like I wanted to incorporate the screen and the oblique angle of the screen. Like I'm looking at the screen and it's a little bit, it's not like head on the way you're seeing it. So I wanted to get that sense that something was a little bit off and a little bit askew with this. So, and I incorporated all of the dust that was in that moment going through the diegetic circuit of the movie projector. Well, most of my stuff is European based either in the country of my heritage, from Ukraine, or from Italian, French movies. This is one of the rare occasions which I go into the Western cinema, and this, of course, is Clark Gable, and I just blanked. Carol Lombard, thank you. And they were real sweethearts, weren't they? They were madly in love with each other, and that's certainly something that can be experienced in this image. And you're looking at this, and you're going, okay, I could see the couple there, but what are those marks that are on there? Well, those are the marks that are on the drawing. When I work on these, I don't work horizontally, I work vertically on them, so that the charcoal powder, in effect, it kind of cascades down. It goes into this makeshift kind of gutter that I've made. But sometimes my finger will go over the edge of a piece of paper, and it will create this series, this matrix of different abstract shapes and lines. So I've actually drawn over top of them what's happening on the wall behind the piece of paper. And when I was working on this, there was this Metroland in Oshawa produced this catalog of what of Durham over the course of a 24-hour period, and like they would have gone to the hospital during the night shift and taken shots. But at any rate, Jason had dropped by my studio at 2303 at 1103, and he had the photographer who took the shot had a very long day of photographing, and he climbed up on this step stool, and I thought he was going to fall off of it and hurt himself. So just to get this shot taken from above. So this gives you a sense of the studio space, and this was a work that was inspired by 400 coups, 400 blows, in which it's really an amazing scene. You can see it on YouTube. It's these kids that are watching a puppet show. Unbeknownst to them, they're being filmed, and all of just the realism of their expressions, they're just absolutely enthralled with this puppet show, and yeah, it's really worth a watch. 400 coups. And so there you can see the marks, the marks of from my finger there. This is an image that's titled "Writing on the Wall," and this features Antoine Douanel. He's the main character, the juvenile delinquent who's depicted in that film 400 coups. Who directed it? Was it Truffaut that directed this? Yes, Truffaut. And my understanding is that there was like a series, and they followed the plight of Antoine Douanel as he gets older and goes into his teens. But this, so this is called Picnic. I wonder what he's pouring into those mugs. And then another image with, I love the way driving scenes are shown in the movies. And sometimes there'll be real backgrounds, sometimes there'll be, sometimes they're a screen. This is a great scene. This is a really great film. I really would encourage. It's called I Knew Her Well. Io la conoscevo bene. And it's a really amazing movie. I'm blanking on the star of it though. It'll come to me. That's her. Stefania Sandrelli. And there she is. And she's witnessing the scene of an accident. And you can see that she's very much disturbed by the sight which appears in front of her. And there is her boyfriend just coming into the picture frame. This is a really amazing film. I always get this trilogy mixed up. I believe this is from L'Avventura. This is also a trilogy by Michelangelo Antonioni, and it stars Alain de Leon and Monica Vitti. And Monica Vitti is that icy blonde that's turning her head, and that the blur of her hair that is created against the background of the Trajan or the Roman stock exchange. And there's a better shot of her, a little bit closer on face. Monica Vitti. I think I called this one Shoes. Would anyone care to guess what this one is titled? Dust. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, Dust. Or AKA, you missed the spot. This is Antoine Douanel, and he's getting a little bit naughty here in the movie theater. And this is one of the later, in the Antoine Douanel series. Marcello Mastriani, and that's a young Stefania Sandrelli. You can make up your own narrative with this one. This is an image at the top. It's called The Apparition. And it's a very long, narrow piece. And much like, remember we saw in the Colosseum drawing, we saw that Teodoro appears 3 times. And in fact, that young woman, the kerchiefed young woman, appears 3 times as well. You can see she's with her mother on the left-hand side, but she's looking over her shoulder. And she walks past that hipster dude with a really cool white shirt, and you could just see a sliver of her profile. And she catches up with Marcello again, and she looks back from where she came. She's definitely checking him out. I don't blame her. And what a hunk. And I'll show you how it appears in the Fellini film. This is La Dolce Vita, if I'm not mistaken.
This particular one. The woman would like to believe.
There she is, walking past the dude there, catching up with Marcello and looking back. Maybe she'll get a little kiss, a little peck on the cheek. Isn't that cute? This is in Beverly Hills. I was commissioned by the Waldorf Astoria. It was a new build in Beverly Hills to create 3 works, but they wanted black and white works. I said, I can do that. And they wanted to put it opposite. See these works that are in gold frames, and they're very ethereal and they're very beautiful abstract works. I guess there's a little sense of a horizon line in them, but they wanted something that was very contrast to the ethereality of those works. And they had asked me to produce these works. This is Anna Karenina? Anna Karenina, not Karenina, but it's similar to that. Yeah, she's a French actress. And this is in Band of Outsiders, but it's just sort of sliced moments as she turns away from the mirror. And this one is called Over the Shoulder, and then there's another one that takes place in a movie theater. So that's wild. They're all charcoal, yes, yeah. They're under glass. It's a little bit reflective. Yeah, they're about like this. They're not huge. I guess I would call them my miniatures compared with looks. Yes. It was interesting because the over the shoulder, you can see there's like just a little bit of another woman that's depicted there, but they didn't want that other woman's face. They just said, no, just concentrate on it. I said, hey, you're paying for it. Why not? This is another image which takes several moments together, and this is called Outskirts, and this is the outskirts of probably Milan. This is called Metro. You can probably guess what this one's called. Yeah, I think I called it the Waltz or something. But you can see those two, that couple that's in the middle. They're repeated twice, just going through that beautiful dance that they're dancing, and how that little girl is just looking into the mirror on the right hand side is really a nice moment. to rest your eyes on. This one is called The Office. I think Michael Scott's in there somewhere. This one's called Beatnik Chick. This one's titled Where Are You Going? And it once again it plays with our experience of cinema, but in a more plastic way, and kind of puts together things that are disparate in the film, but are put together in a different way in a drawing. This one's called Over the Shoulder, or Shoulder and Smile, I think I called this one. Paris. This one's called Cylinders. You can see the Pirelli spools there. I'm guessing this is outside of Milan as well. This one is titled When Our Souls Dream. And it's taking two separate moments from the same film. I believe it's the film is called Shadows. And it was one of the early films. Who's the guy who played Guy in Rosemary's Baby? Who's also a director. Sorry? Yes, exactly. That was his very first film, I think, Shadows. It's about like the beatnik movement in New York City. I think that's it. Oh, you're probably wondering, well, what do you, Olex, that's all fine and dandy, but what are you working on now? I'm working in color now. Ever since the war started in Ukraine, I started making placards. Some patriotic, some a little bit more political. And I've created one placard for every week that the war has waged in Ukraine. And this was the highlight for 2022. It's been a really difficult year, I think, for many of us. But this was a glimmer of hope, I think, because there was the Ukrainian festival in Bloor West Village, and we had a chance to march in the parade. And the director, the principal of the Ukrainian language school, Kate, had asked me, can we borrow your placards and could we get the kids to march with them? I said, well, I'd be delighted. It'd be so nice. And there they are, wearing their Ukrainian national costumes, and their folks are there, and it was a really great way of coming together. And there I am trying to look at my phone to see if I could get a shot as well. So that's what Ukrainians call the trezu. It means trident, and it is an ancient. Sorry.
Coins.
Coins, yeah, and that was a symbol of. It was the heraldic symbol for Volodymyr Veliki, Volodymyr the Great, who Christianized Ukraine in 988, and it's been the symbol of a free Ukraine ever since. So well over 1,000 years.
On my daughter's portrait, one of the coins because it's
Wow. Isn't it, it's such a nice symbol. I really like it. So I've stylized it. You can see on the right hand side, it's stylized in the image of a dove carrying a peace branch, and then next to that is a trezu, a trident in blue, and it says at the bottom, Dobroho večera my z Ukraine. Good evening, we're from Ukraine. That's become sort of a kind of a meme or a slogan. There's or next to that, kind of a Disney-like character, but she's wearing one of those anti-tank missiles that was supplied. What are they called? Javelins. Very important, almost a game changer. And then Azovstal, Free Mariupol Defenders. And one of my favorites, and the one in the middle, is like in the style of socialist realism. And this woman is just like, we can do it. And then the really tall one says Free Ukraine, like as in the notion of a free Ukraine, claws off Ukraine. And then the slightly obstructed portrait in the background is our national bard, Taras Perehorovich Shevchenko. He was a famed poet and very talented artist. He's sort of considered like for the English would be Shakespeare, or for the Germans would be Goethe. So that's our Shevchenko, and he really unifies Ukrainians in his writings. And then, oh, and it was done in the style of that famous poster, the poster for the Obama campaign. Remember, it was said hope. So that was that Shevchenko portrait is based on that artist. And then on the bottom left, there's a beautiful floral interpretation of the trident, and it says "Je vais t'acquitter," which is live and blossom. Yeah, really great moment. That was earlier in the year, in September, in mid-September, when we gathered at Hyde Park and then marched to Bloor West Village. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Are there any questions maybe that over the course that I haven't had a chance to answer? I do. I'm represented at the Abbozzo Gallery. If anyone knows where the 401 Richmond complex is, at Richmond and Spadina. As soon as you walk in, there's the Abbozzo Gallery. And we like to put on an exhibition that coincides with TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. I wonder why. There's a connection there, I think. Yeah, so that'll be coming up for the next TIFF. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks so much.
I would like Angela Hennessy to pop up here and do the art exchange for us.
Before we do the art exchange, may I just say a word?
Sure.
Thank you.
Andrew's going to say something first.
Angela, I hope you don't mind. I just would like to take a moment to recognize the brilliance of the talk we were just afforded. Olex, that was, he's distracted. Olex, thank you so much. Just briefly, I know you guys have been here for a very long time, and Angela needs to do her thing. Many of you have contributed to that. When you first started your talk, I'm sure we were all blown away by the work you were showing. You had Fernandez, you dropped in on Eccles, and then you upped things with the staircase. And I'm thinking, this man is taking us on a journey, but little did I know, little did we all know. You kept upping the ante, didn't you, you little rat? And you took us on a mind-blowing exploration of your work. That was absolutely stunning. Thank you from the bottoms of our collective bottoms of our hearts. That was very inspiring, and I'm going to go home and pull out my pastels now. But I would only be living in hope. Thank you, Angela.
Yes.
Just quickly, I was mentioned that Edward was in this room 2 years back, presenting his work. And I did have occasion to say hi to him and shake his hand. But I do meet him again. I will say I was very fortunate to see the presentation of his work on second stage. Thank you.
Good evening. This evening, there were a number of people who, when I addressed them and said, "Did you bring me a mini?" said, "Oh, what's that all about?" And they didn't know. I thought maybe I should explain. And then next year, you can all bring a mini. For quite a number of years now, I don't know exactly how long, but long before my time, the SCA, when they've had their winter holiday party, have asked artists if they want to participate in the exchange of miniature works of art. And they can be on canvases or they can be on paper. It doesn't matter. And some are even three-dimensional. So there's one of our artist members who has often provided little pigs, and that's Andrew Beignet. And they were always much prized and fought over. So for future, if you wish, and you're coming to the party, bring a 3.5 by 3.5 inch miniature painting, drawing, photograph, three-dimensional piece, and you will get a number, be given a number by me. I will put, if it's a two-dimensional piece, I'll put it into a mat. And then later, after, right now, numbers are drawn. So when I call out your number and you'll have received a card like this, then the piece that I have next in line is yours. And as a matter of fact, you don't even have to come to the dinner. You can actually submit pieces by mail. So normally it's, I'm not sure to whom it would go, but the person in charge of sending out the invites to the dinner would normally receive by mail any miniatures that people want to be part of the exchange, and they will then get one back. So I will begin. Number one, whoever number one is, will receive, and I've got to find the right piece here because some of them are framed and couldn't be put in the mat. Let me just find it right here. Number one receives this exquisite little canvas. Congratulations, and yes, thank you for bringing me the number. Well, you'll just have to wait till the end, and then whatever is left over must be yours. Number two. Who has number two? Oh, good, Sheila. You've got an original Angela Hennessy. Oh, thank you. Here we go. Number three. Who has number three? What? And you will receive this gorgeous piece by Shula Darund. No, Sheila Davis. That's Sheila Davis. You're absolutely right. Turn this way. Sorry, Sheila. Number four. You are getting a piece by, is it Linda Hammond? There you are. And did you bring your number?
I have, they took it when they took my dishes.
Oh,
They took,
no,
no, I'm serious.
but not a problem.
Or did you guys?
It's all right. It's all right.
Saucer one.
Yes. Come a little bit closer. Terrific, thank you.
Number five, which is me, I get this lovely piece by Kate Sigrid. It's a gorgeous landscape.
Oh, let me see you shaking your hand.
Thank you. Number six, this is wonderful. This is Mary Elizabeth Duggan's exquisite little bird.
I'm Roxanne. I'm coming back with number 8. She had to go.
Very good. May I have your number? Thank you. Number 7, you have got this sweetie by E. Valentine. Thank you very much. Number 8. Number 8 is getting Flaming Horizons by Delaney, J. Delaney. Thank you. number 9. This is by Liane Bedard, I believe. Daigle, yes. And this is for number 9. Whoever has number 9, there you are. Thank you.
Can I show you?
Perfect, thank you.
And last but certainly not least, number 10, it's Wendy Birmingham's. That's fine, that's fine. Thank you so much. So, thank you all very much, those of you who took part, and I hope next year to get twice as many. Because I want to make it worth my while. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for being here. It was a wonderful evening. Thank you for being here in our celebration of the year's work for the SCA and your work. It was fabulous to see you all. Guys on Zoom, thank you. And we're going to say a bonsoir, good night, and safe drive. For those of you who are driving, be mindful. Good evening. By the way, the bar is still open. Not for you guys. Actually, the guys on Zoom, their bar is always open. The bar is going to be open here for a while.